Good morning everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I want to go over everything I have made or created so far in 2026. Basically a whole range of stuff. A whole range of random stuff. Some of them are related to my engineering degree. I just want to go through over everything that I've created in a way to inspire you to also start creating things that you feel not necessarily passionate about, but something that you've always wanted to exist, or something that pops up, just an idea that pops up in your mind and you want to put it into action. Anyways, I'll be going over a total of 11 things that I have created. And I'll briefly explain the item, why I decided to make it, how I created it, and how you can also create it, even if you don't have an engineering degree. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing that I have created is actually in December, but it's close enough to January that it counts in 2026 in my mind at least. It's a quiz application where you are basically tested on what your tech niche can be based on a series of questions. I had no interest at all in creating a quiz app. However, this seemed like a very good procrastination method for me. The app itself isn't something special. It's more the general idea. I still don't know what my tech niche is going to be. I don't like almost anything, any branch of tech, unfortunately. So I wanted to create a application that could help me find that. However, the questions that I came up with were kind of vague. It's like, what's your favorite color? I don't know how that was supposed to give me a technique, but that was my general idea. So it doesn't really count anyway. It was in December. But moving on to our next one. Number 2 is a knitting website that counts your stitches. So I remember this was in February. So I impulsively bought a ball of yarn and I didn't really know what to do with it because that much yarn is not enough for anything. So I decided to create like hand warmers, but like the halfway kind where your fingers are like poking out. I put it off for so long that I forgot my stitches. I was working on it from January till February, but like I didn't even finish it in February. I think I finished it in March. It took a very long time. But the point was, I think my issue was forgetting my stitches. So I was like, how about I use one of these stitch counters? And I used one, it was pretty good. However, once you refresh, your information might disappear. It's not guaranteed. So I was like, okay, I can make my own, why not? And then I completely focused on that project and completely forgot about my knitting project. But regardless, this is how it turned out. It wasn't bad. It was a really cute idea. I had created one of the gloves by then, and I was able to use that as a reference point for some pixel art because I decided, I don't know, why not try pixel art as well? Because it was kind of boring to just make a stitch counter. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can also make this very easily. I use JavaScript, so I first created my folder. I created a folder. You technically need a compiler for most of these coding projects that I have done, but you can also use online compilers. I haven't used any besides CoderPad, I think, but that was only for like testing things. Anyways, moving on is February 13th. I had decided to create my boyfriend a website, a Valentine's Day website. It's a very popular gift among coders. I had really liked the pixel art that I created for my stitch counter, so I decided to try it again. I first went onto YouTube. I found a lily blooming time-lapse video, and then I screenshotted that in like 5-10 screenshots, and then I used that as a reference for my lily. And I use Procreate for all of my designs. However, you can use any free application there is out there. So how did I create that? It's the same process as the knitting video. Created a website, and then I inserted the lily, and I said, okay, every time this button is pressed, go step by step. And when I was done, it was kind of boring. So I decided to add a little bit of flair, one of which is the Megamind meme photo. So if you don't press the button, that's gonna show up. And I also added background music. There are many online resources besides generative AI to learn how to create these web applications. I have linked some down below so you can follow along. They're very easy to follow along. They're great for beginners. So if you really want to create a web application similar to the 2 that I created, you can use these and customize it to your own needs. And so moving on, the next 2 are also gifts for my boyfriend. One is a lantern lamp. I had created these light lamps back in middle school, and what I basically did was I had a light source and I used cardboard to create a frame. So I started by creating a frame like this. I remember this one because it was a really fun shape. It was like a triangle prism, and I placed a LED light bulb in the middle of it and attached it to the back so you could click to open and close the lamp. And for the front, I had these stacks of paper that were just sitting there, so I decided to use one. Then I cut out shapes. I'm not sure what they're called, but it's when you play with lights and layers like this. See how there's a difference? So I used to cut out shapes and stack them in front of each other, and then I'd have one main piece to hold it all together, and I'd place that in front of the frame like this. So when the light turned on, you'd not only get light but also a nice design in the front. So I decided if I remember how to make one of those, I can make one again. The lamp was inspired from these Pinterest lamps that I saw. I've always wanted one, but I already have a lamp. I don't need another one. So I decided to get my boyfriend one. So first I started by buying a couple of materials. For this, the main thing I needed was wood glue, and I needed some wooden dowels. So I got these two. I wasn't sure at all about the measuring, but decided to go home and then measure. You're gonna need, I think, 2-3 wooden dowels that are long enough for your lamp, for whatever size you want it to be. So cut your wooden dowels into 4 equal pieces. You're gonna need 4 of them so that they are supporting each other like this. I decided to create a square shape, but I think you can also make it into a triangle. Triangle should also work if you want, but I decided to make it square. Anyways, yeah. So I measured, I cut, and I also sanded so that it's not rough. However, when I sanded it, I think it turned out pretty uneven. When I put down the lamp, it kind of tilts to one edge, so be very careful when you're sanding. Don't be like me and just hack at it. Then I used a piece of paper to kind of measure how much paper I would need for the sides of the lamp. I guess you would call it sides. I settled on this piece of paper because it seemed pretty perfect for what I wanted to achieve. I didn't really measure it out too much. Then, after creating the side panels, I needed support beams because it was gonna fall if it didn't have any. So I have 4 like this, and then I also need 4 that attaches from the bottom, and also 4 that attaches from the top. And for these beams, they need to be a lot more thinner so that they don't weigh down the entire lamp. So after creating those support beams, I also needed somewhere so I can put the lamp inside. So I used, again, the very thin dowels to create a kind of a cross mark, and which I then cut out, and I also supported that side of the cross. Moving on to the paper that I used. So my initial idea was to create my own paper because I've created paper before and it was really fun, so I thought, why not do it again? So I had a lot of paper lying around, a lot of like scrap paper that I wasn't using just lying around. So I decided to blend those up and create my own paper. And I actually did not have any strainer or anything, any flat strainer, and I was kind of too lazy to go get one. So I decided to use my mosquito net that's attached to my window. And because of that, I think it turned out really uneven, unfortunately. So I cannot recommend doing this at all. On the bright side, I had found some very thin type of fabric that I could use instead. And it's not pure fabric, it was like a plastic blend of a fabric. It was really nice enough to use because it was thin enough for light to pass through, but not thick enough to like weigh down the entire lamp. So that's what I decided to use. However, I believe you can still use paper, just make sure it's far away from the lamp so it doesn't burn or anything. So I ended up just using that. So I cut out the same amount of fabric that I measured out with that piece of paper, and I decided to create a little design on one of the panels. I used the same material for the panels and some wood glue to glue them together. So moral of the story, you can learn from my mistakes. Don't try to make your own paper. Just use something that's lying around, or even just normal regular paper, as long as your lamp light is not that strong. Moving on was the second gift. I again saw a t-shirt on Pinterest that I really like. For this, the materials you need is fabric paint. You can also, I think, create fabric paint using acrylic and black acrylic and fabric softener. However, I have not tried it, so I cannot guarantee any result. But mine came in a little bottle, and I just put it in this. I would not suggest putting it in anything, to be honest, because it was really hard to squeeze out, because it's really thin, as you can see, and it's really hard to like squeeze out thick paint. So I suggest just using a paintbrush or even your fingers to dab it on. For this, I used sticker paper. So what I did was I opened the Tintin picture up on my iPad, and then I traced over it on the sticker paper, and then I used an X-Acto knife to painstakingly cut this piece out. It was It took so long. I'm being so real right now. I do not recommend this project. I would recommend it for like a block of words, which is much easier to cut out. However, this tested my patience, to be honest, because there's so many grooves and your finger starts to hurt from gripping this X-Acto knife so hard. But one other project that I used the same technique on was this I Told You shirt. I used fabric paint and the sticker paper to create this. I again used my iPad to trace over each letter. What you want to do, what I recommend, I didn't do this, but what I would recommend is to create a few lines. So let's say this is your sticker paper. Create a few straight lines on the sticker paper so that you can follow along how big your words and letterings is going to be. Because for words and letterings, it's very difficult to get them to be the correct size, especially if you're on iPad and you have to move around to get to each letter. Creating a guide for yourself is so much more easier to get the correct sizing. So you would have to create a few straight lines like this, and then when you're going over it on the iPad or any other screen that you're using, even your phone possibly, or even drawing it by hand, so let's say the first letter, and then when you're moving on to the next letter, you can compare against the first letter and see if it's the same general size. This method cannot be accurate. The only way it can be accurate is if you were to print it, which you can also do, but I decided I was too lazy to do that, and if I were to do that, I would never get this done. But it turned out pretty great. This is another one of my projects. I finished this about a few days ago. Moving on. So these two projects were done in February and March, and now we're in April. In April, I had a whopping 4 little projects. One thing I created was a calendar. So I really love calendars, especially the ones where you get enough space to write stuff like little notes. However, every calendar I bought has no space for me to write little bullshit on it. I don't know why they create the rectangles for each day so tiny, but they never have enough space. So I decided I'm just gonna create my own. So I decided to create a calendar in April, and this is June. I really liked it, clearly. Let me pull out my April calendar. Where is it? I created this using Procreate on my iPad, but I believe you can also do this on your phone with just your finger. I've done that before, and I think it's very possible to do so, or you can even draw your own calendar. A3 was perfect for me, but you can get it bigger or smaller if you want. So this is my April calendar. I really love it. I love the colors, I love the design. I wasn't going anywhere with it. I started by just creating a hibiscus flower. You can barely even see it's a hibiscus flower, but after a while you can see I kind of got tired, so I just blew it up and just stopped working on it halfway. To be honest, I would change it up if I could. Like, this could be a little bit more fluid. I could work on the flower a bit more, but it's perfect just the way it is. I kind of like it just like this. And I've had so much fun with this. I created one for May as well and June. For May, I actually created a mock-up. This was the original mock-up of the May design. I was sketching in class and I decided I really liked the lily flowers, but this does not look like a lily flower. Anyways, you can create a mock-up like this and just paint over this. You can use watercolor, you can use crayons, you can use anything, to be honest. I wanted a purple theme for May, so this is what I came up with. I also really love this. You can see that I tried to create the purple ones, but they were so difficult to create. There were so many tiny pieces that I eventually gave up, to be honest. But I really like how my lily flower turned out, and I also have enough space for my little notes, so I really love creating my own calendars. Feel free to use the designs that I have. I don't mind at all. I've linked it down below. Just to briefly explain how I created this. So if you do have Procreate and a means to create digital art, I created this using an A3 sizing. So I think it's 16 inches by 11. This is not exact, but I think it's approximately 16 by 11 inches. I can actually link the squares and the Monday to Tuesday lettering down below just by themselves if you don't want to like redo that, because that really took a while for me at least. I exported it as a PDF because PDF is best for printing. So after exporting, I just printed it and pasted it on my wall. If you just want the template, I've also added that. Moving on, so after that calendar, I went thrifting and I found this gorgeous yellow sweater. It was a bit boring, so I decided to do these patchwork knitting. I don't know what it's called, but it's when you create a design on top of the knit by using like sewing techniques or something. I decided to create the Vivienne Westwood logo, the orb, on top of the entire sweater. So for this, you need yarn, you need the design that you want. So if you were to search Vivienne Westwood pixel grid, this is what you would get, and this is what we're looking for. So what you need is a very detailed grid of your design so that you can follow along. And I used a YouTube video to actually help me with this. So this method is actually called duplicate stitch knitting, where you basically knit on top of your actual sweater. And I actually used this video by Made in the Moment, how to do duplicate stitching knitting. It's this one with the cherries on it. It's very easy to follow. You just need the yarn of your choice and your actual yarn to match. My yarn was actually made up of like 4 very thin strings of yarn, so I decided to pull them apart, and I think I used 2 of these very thin ones to create mine. It's summer right now, but I don't want to put it away because I feel like I haven't gotten a good enough picture with this. This is how it turned out. I really love this project. It's such a good idea. I actually have saved another one, which is a flower that I really want to do, but I haven't found anything I want to knit it on. But this is how it turned out. It's really easy. I might have messed up. I think I definitely messed up here. I think I missed something and it was supposed to go a bit more down, but I was really tired. It was night. So I don't suggest you do this at night. And because I used a thin version of my yarn, you can see the yellow poking out through the black because I used a thinner version of my yarn. And I don't mind, but you might mind. So I would suggest just using your own yarn. And it doesn't create that much of a difference between your actual sweater. And the inside isn't that bad either. Okay, it might be a little bad. So we're still in April, and I had also created another website. This one's for my friend. It was a birthday website. Again, I used the same techniques that I used for the other website, so it's nothing special on this round. But moving on to the next one is movie reviews. So this year I got to attend the Istanbul Film Festival. It was a really amazing time and experience, and there were so many good films. And I got to write a few reviews. So if you have recently watched a movie, I'd highly suggest just writing a review about it, about your own thoughts and what you thought of the movie. It's a very good way to exercise that cog in your brain. So in May, again, the calendar that I created and the I Told Ya t-shirt that I created that I threw somewhere, and this one. So the May calendar was actually done in May. However, the I Told You shirt was done a few days ago, about a week ago. So this wraps up my 11 things that I have created. I think it's very important to create stuff. Doesn't matter what it is, just a little idea that pops up in your mind or something that you see that you really like. I think exercising the creative side of your brain is a very important tool that many people overlook, especially more technical people. Like, I'm a computer engineer, however, I really like being creative, even in my own field. And as we have entered June, I definitely plan to create more stuff, and I highly recommend that you also create, regardless of what it is. Anyways, that is to wrap up my video. Thank you so much for making it this far. I don't know how you made it this far. But if you have any questions on any of the projects that I have created, materials to use, you can just ask it in the comments and I will get back to you. Yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Number 15. And then I've even used it for this. Wait, I'll explain that later. I told ya, I love challengers. Okay, focus printed.